This video is going to show how to set a particular cabinet type to have shelf holes set by default, and we'll also take a look at the settings for those shelf holes. So for this wall cabinet type, notice that the shelf holes is unchecked, and we want to have that checked by default every time we select and choose a wall cabinet. So to set that, we're going to go into Tools, Settings. We're going to verify and make sure that we have that particular cabinet type set, in this case wall. We're going to add a checkbox to say that we want to have shelf holes set by default for our selected cabinet type. Now to take a look at the settings for shelf holes, I'm going to click the button for shelf holes. Once the setting opens up, we're able to see all the settings that make up the placement of those holes. The first setting that we have is the layer name. This is the feature that is going to show up in the nesting and when we're calculating what bit we're going to use and setting up our toolpath operations. So in the nesting, we're going to see this layer name in our list to be able to set the tool diameters for the speeds, feed rates, and so forth on that. The spacing is the distance from center to center of each hole. 1.25 inches, or to be true to the 32 millimeter system, this might need to be set to a metric version of 32. The depth is how deep that hole is going to go. We could increase or decrease the depth of that hole. Inset from the front and the back is the distance from the front edge to the center of the holes, and same for the back is the distance from the back edge of the cabinet to the center. So anytime you make a change, we're going to change the back to be inset by 1 rather than 2 to move this row of holes back closer to the back edge of the cabinet. Once we made that change, clicking Save, then our 3D view will update reflecting that change. The distance from the top and the bottom is the distance from the bottom edge to where the first hole starts, and from the top down is from the top edge to where the last hole ends. Now that value is not an exact value because we need to have balance, so it is going to be a plus or minus the shelf hole spacing. So we are within 1.25 inches of 6 up or down. The diameter of the shelf holes, if we are running 5 millimeter rather than 1/4 inch, making that change, clicking Save, we will see that the drawing in the 3D model gets updated to reflect that change. I'm going to bump that back up to 1/4 inch so we could better see the holes in the 3D view. So that is the default functions and settings in the built-in features of shelf holes. We do have custom ways of adding in more options, and that is the option to use a script. So I'm going to check the box to add scripts, and I'm going to set a script to not drill a full row of holes, but rather drill sets of 3 holes. So we will then, with that checked, come down to scripts, and we are going to look for shelf hole sets. Once both of those have been checked and selected, clicking Save, we will see that the 3D drawing again updates to reflect those changes, and most of the settings are still apply or affect the placement of those holes. So if we want those 3 holes to be closer or farther away from the back, again, we could change that from the back edge. I'm going to bump that up to 2, clicking Save, and again, the 3D view updates to see those changes. The number of shelves, so it is giving us a set of holes for every shelf that is required for this cabinet or is being set. To determine the number of shelves is set by the cut shelves feature. So to give us more shelves, we need to decrease this spacing. Just see what happens when we reduce that to 6 and clicking save. We may end up getting some overlapping holes, or it may end up looking like we have a full row of holes. So that is it for the shelf holes and being able to also add in a script. For more information on scripts and how to create them, take a look at the video for creating scripts.